I'd been driving for Uber for about 6 months, mostly weekend nights to pay off student loans. The money was decent, and I thought I'd seen everything the late-night crowd had to offer. Drunk college kids, tired shift workers, the occasional sketchy character. But nothing prepared me for what happened that October night. It was just past 2 a.m. when the request came through. Pickup location was downtown, near the old industrial district. Not the best area, but the ride was going across town, so the fare would be worth it. I accepted and drove through the empty streets, rain hammering my windshield. When I arrived at the pickup spot, I saw a woman standing alone under a flickering streetlight. She was wearing a dark hoodie, hood up, and seemed to be swaying slightly. I rolled down my window and called out, "Sarah?" She nodded and got into the back seat without saying a word. I glanced in my rearview mirror as we pulled away. Her face was still hidden by the hood, and she kept her head down, staring at her hands. "How's your night going?" I asked, trying to make conversation. She didn't respond. I figured she was drunk or just not in a talkative mood. The destination was about 20 minutes away, in a residential area on the outskirts of town. As we drove, I noticed she kept checking her phone, but the screen was always black. She'd lift it, stare at the blank screen for a few seconds, then put it back down. Strange behavior, but I'd learned not to judge. About 10 minutes into the ride, I noticed a car behind us. Dark sedan, keeping pace but maintaining distance. At first, I didn't think much of it, but when I took the exit toward her neighborhood, the car followed. When I turned onto the residential street, it turned too. My heart started racing. I glanced at Sarah in the mirror again. She was sitting perfectly still, but I could swear she was smiling now. "Hey, do you know that car behind us?" I asked. She slowly lifted her head, and for the first time I could see her eyes in the mirror. They were completely black. I blinked hard, thinking I was seeing things. When I looked again, her eyes were normal brown. Maybe it was just the lighting, or I was more tired than I thought. But the car was still following us, and we were getting close to her destination. I turned onto her street, hoping this would all be over soon. When we reached the address, my blood turned cold. The house was completely dark, with boarded-up windows and an overgrown yard. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. I turned around to ask Sarah what was going on, but she was already opening the door. "Thanks for the ride," she whispered, her voice barely audible. She got out and started walking toward the abandoned house, but something was wrong with the way she moved. Her feet didn't seem to quite touch the ground. I sat there, frozen, watching her disappear into the shadows. Then I remembered the car that had been following us. I looked in my mirror, and it was gone. With shaking hands, I checked the ride details on my phone. The pickup location showed the abandoned house I was parked in front of, not the downtown location where I'd actually picked her up. The destination was listed as my home address, an address I had never shared with anyone through the app. I floored the accelerator and sped away from that house, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I kept checking my mirrors, expecting to see that dark sedan again, but the streets were empty. I drove around aimlessly for an hour, too scared to go home, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Eventually, I pulled into an all-night diner and sat in my car, trying to calm down. I told myself it was all a coincidence, that I was overreacting. Maybe the app had glitched. Maybe I was more exhausted than I realized. But deep down, I knew something impossible had just happened. That's when I got the notification. A message through the Uber app. "Thanks for bringing me home. I'll see you soon." But according to the app, the ride had never happened. There was no record of it in my trip history, no payment, no trace that Sarah had ever existed. Yet there was her message, impossible but real. I never drove for Uber again after that night. I still don't know who or what Sarah really was, or how she knew where I lived. Sometimes late at night I get text messages from unknown numbers. They're always the same. "I'll see you soon." I've changed my phone 3 times, but the messages keep coming. Some rides, it seems, never really end.